This is the first candidate that I've actually not had a chance to sit with for about 30 seconds before we begin. And I have to warn the people who are filming this. When I started this, I acknowledged that I am suffering from laryngitis, and I've actually made it this far, but there might be a moment, I can tell, in the next 20 minutes when I will depart. It has nothing to do with him, and I just don't want to mess up this very nice floor right here. My question to you all is, I know you're frustrated with the courts. I know you're frustrated with Congress, the legislative branch. And I know you're frustrated, obviously, with the president. Which of those three branches do you feel best represents what you think? And the one that you feel is closest to you, you've got to choose one of them. You don't get to choose none of them. The executive branch, a part of the executive, not President Obama, but of the three branches, which do you feel closest to? Who says the executive branch? It's Mrs. Obama, I guess. Who feels closest to the legislative branch? And the judicial branch. You used to be a member of Congress as governor, and you thought about these issues. What is the proper role? And I know this is getting a little bit more intellectual, but what is the proper role and relationship between the executive, the legislative, and the judicial? Because the next president is going to have to set a new tone.
You're exactly right. First of all, thank you very much for having me. Look, I think this president, and that was a very tough question you just asked, because we've got a president who's made it a consistent practice to ignore the Constitution, ignore the laws. As conservatives, we can't say it's okay for a Republican president to do that. We want to set that precedent. So on the first day, as president, I'm going to rescind his illegal amnesty orders. I'm going to rescind all the exemptions and the special rules he's made in Obamacare and go back to the rule of law. Secondly,
watching all day know this. I want you to say in terms of the next president, because this isn't a campaign appearance here. Nobody wants to get sued.
All right. Secondly, in terms of the proper role of the courts, the greatest violation we've seen was 2 weeks ago when in 1 week they couldn't be bothered to read a dictionary or a constitution. I said we might as well just get rid of the court to save some money. Hillary Clinton didn't like that. She criticized that yesterday. So I'm a reasonable person. Let's just get rid of 2/3 of the court. There are 3 of them I don't mind keeping. We need justices who don't look to international law or opinion polls. If they want to make law, they should run for Congress. They need to apply the United States Constitution, not anything else. I know earthly court can change for me the definition of marriage. As a Christian, I believe it's between a man and a woman. That is not the role for any court in this land. In terms of finally Congress, Greg, I think we need structural changes. It's not enough just to have Republicans in charge. We need term limits, balanced budget amendment. We need to stop them from becoming lawmakers.
What happens when the court makes a decision that you don't like? Well, the court decided what a marriage is. Are you going to ignore that as president?
Well, as president, with this...
Should the president go?
And I like the way you asked it the first time, but that's all right. You broke your own rules, that's all right.
Thank you for that.
The next president, I'll get better. The next president, I think should do what we did in Louisiana, issue an executive order immediately, saying the federal government will not discriminate or take action against any individual or business that has a traditional view of marriage. We're not going to threaten your tax rights. The next president will appoint as many as 1 to 4 Supreme Court justices. Right, here's my frustration. How many of you were wondering how the Democratic justices were going to rule? Nobody. We all knew how they were going to rule. We're here because of Roberts and Kennedy. The Democrats, though were nominated by Republicans, when the Democrats nominate justices, they nominate liberals and they make no apologies for it, and a bunch of Senate Republicans vote to confirm them. When Republicans nominate justices, our presidents pretend. They say, we're going to find somebody who's never made a rule, somebody who's never had a legal writing, and we're going to pretend that we don't have any idea what they believe. Why not instead say, you know what, I'm nominating a conservative who will apply the Constitution, I'll find somebody from the Federalist Society. I want a Scalia, I want a Thomas, I want an Alito, I don't want a Roberts or Kennedy, and I certainly don't want any of the other guys.
I'll get up to questions in a moment, so if you got questions for the governor, please line up at the microphones. But I just want to be clear that you are saying that even if the Supreme Court says this is the law of the land, you're prepared, you think the next president should say to the Supreme Court, I'm sorry, you're wrong.
Well, look, clearly the Supreme Court is wrong. I mean, they can't change what God has created and instituted, but a couple of things. I'm for the federal laws and constitutional amendments that will get us our 10th Amendment rights back. I'm for the federal constitutional amendment that defines marriage between a man and a woman. The executive...
The whole Constitution?
I'm for the whole Constitution.
Everything.
And that's why I'm for an executive order and a law that reinforces... This is a new law. Our First Amendment rights, the Founding Fathers put this in the First Amendment, saying we've got religious liberty rights. The government should not be able to fire me. The government should not be able to take away my tax status. The government should not be able to discriminate against me being a Christian and wanting to live my life.
Something that might be a little bit difficult, but I'm familiar, obviously, with your political career. I've known you for a while. Sure. And I know that earlier in your career you faced some discrimination, and that some believed that you did not get one of the offices that you sought because the people voted based on your ethnicity rather than your ideas and your record. Can you explain what it's like to go through that, to know that you deserve that job, but because of your ethnicity, you're being denied it?
Well, a couple of things. I've never believed I've been discriminated against. Now, I do think the Democrats tried. They've run ads, they've attacked me, they've attacked me for being a Christian, they've tried to say false things about me. But frankly, my experience has been this. I think as Americans, we need to stop the hyphenated Americans and the divisions. Americans or Asian Americans or rich or poor Americans, we're all Americans. And this is very important for me, and I say this to my children as well. I say this not only as a governor, but as a father. I'm not a victim. We've got too many victims in this country. This president's not a victim. I think I'm the best candidate to be president. I wouldn't want it if I didn't, but I'm going to win not based on the color of my skin. I'm going to win based on my ideas, my experience, what we have done, and the fact that I'm willing to go to D.C. and take on the establishment in both the Republican and the Democratic parties to get us off the path of socialism.
Okay, when there are questions, we've got someone in the front left, microphone 1.
Welcome to Iowa. It is paradise here.
Thank you. It's a little warm, but yeah, it is paradise. I'll bring it.
This is a question related in the existing cultural war going on. What should the next president do to restore, take back, and continue to maintain my freedoms and my liberties and that of everybody else in this auditorium?
That's a great question. So in terms of restoring our liberties, I think there are at least 3 things the next president has to do. Number one, we've talked about this a little bit, but right now the left is trying to take God out of the public square. They're trying to secularize our country. And I've said this before, you'll heard me, and I'm going to keep saying this until Hillary Clinton actually understands it. America did not create religious liberty. Religious liberty created the United States. President's got to be ready to fight the New York Times, the ACLU, the Washington Post, whoever gets in our way, so that we don't give up our First Amendment rights. Secondly, we have got to rein in the IRS. We need a lower, flatter tax code so they are not running our lives. Third, we explicitly tell these bureaucracies and agencies what they're not allowed to do. So the Federal Department of Education has no business trying to push Common Core in our classrooms. The EPA has no business trying to regulate water in your backyard. The DOJ has no right trying to take away your Second Amendment rights to own firearms. I'm so sick and tired of all these scandals. I'm ready for some of these bureaucrats to lose their jobs, lose their benefits, and go to prison. You throw some of these IRS or some of these other bureaucrats in jail, you won't have these scandals again. They're all getting bonuses. Nobody's getting fired after all these. So those are three things we can do. We got to shrink the government to restore our freedom.
You're critical of the press. They're sitting right in front of you. He's right there.
New York Times or Washington Post? Which one?
What are you? I'm not choosing. I believe in your right to choose. What are you critical of?
Look, I'm critical when the mainstream media, when they don't apply the same standards to this president that they apply to the rest of us.
Then give the people here a chance to respond. I don't have that opportunity.
Oh, they get lots of things. They'll respond. Don't worry. I'll get it. I know what the stories are going to say, but let me say this. If we nominate a Republican that wants to be liked by the media, that wants to be liked by the establishment, wants to go to the cool cocktail parties, we are done. DC tell you can't do term limits, you can't balance the budget, you can't really repeal the Obamacare. They'll tell you you can't really be smart and conservative. You can't be smart and religious. My message to them is you need to get out of here. Get out of DC. Go to the real world.
I'm going to be looking at his copy tomorrow from all of you. I do want to remind, because we're heading towards the end of this, and I want everyone who wants to speak to get a chance to ask a question. So if you've asked a question already today, you should give someone else the opportunity to. We have someone over here who wants to ask a question.
Hi, Governor Jindal.
Hi, all right.
I have a question. Since we are a nation of laws, as a new president comes in, what would the president do to actually enforce the laws, such as sanctuary cities? Since the federal law says you cannot harbor illegal aliens, yet if you pick and choose which laws you want to enforce, how can you just enforce the laws and live by the laws?
That is a great question. So you've got, absolutely. So you've got the president saying he's going to pick and choose which immigration laws he's going to enforce. You've got sanctuary cities. Now here's the irony. They're violating federal law. They're getting federal grants for the very purpose of the law they're not enforcing. They're getting dollars to lock up people that are here illegally, to detain them, turn them over to ICE. They're not doing that. They're still getting those grants. You've got the Supreme Court rewriting the law. So as president, the next president needs to first not only overturn those executive orders, but secondly, make it very clear, this president keeps saying he's got the power of the pen and the phone. Well, if he's got the power of the pen and the phone, secure the border. Don't talk about it. We don't need a 1,000-page bill. If you need the only good of a 1,000-page bill is you can stack it up against the wall of the border. It might help. Sanctuary cities cut off their federal funding, make sure that ICE is actually going and getting the folks when they detain them, because they're not doing that today. There's a law called case law that I support. You may have seen this in response to a horrific murder in San Francisco that would say if somebody's been deported, they come back illegally, they should be convicted. It should be a 5-year sentence. They should be a felony if they do that. There needs to be real consequences. We can't have people picking and choosing the laws. The left loves to tell us, look, you got to follow the law, except when they don't want to follow the law. When it comes to Obamacare and immigration,
the next president has to be able to work with the Democrats. It cannot just be your way or the highway. You've done a very good job of describing what's wrong with them. How are they ever going to work with them? Why would they ever work with you?
It's a great question. So look, 3 things. President Reagan got tax cuts, reinvested in the Pentagon, and won the Cold War, even though he had a Democratic majority in Congress. How did he do it? He didn't compromise his principles. He went around Congress to the American people. And he convinced them he was right. You've got to make structural changes in Congress, not just Democrats. I'm having trouble working with some of these Republicans in Congress, too. They're going to have trouble with me. I'm not going to have trouble with them. I'm not real worried about that. I think you need term limits. I don't think we need a permanent governing class. They go to become members of Congress, they become lobbyists. We need a part-time legislature. What the founding fathers intended was they left their jobs, they left their farms, they left their factories, worked part-time, came back home to live under the same rules and regulations as private
But I'm going to ask you again, is there anything, can you name 3 issues where you will find it relatively easy to get something done with the Democrats?
Sure. Well, look, in Louisiana, this is my 3rd point. In Louisiana, we did, for example, school choice reform, where the dollars follow the child instead of the child following the dollars. We trust parents. Whether it's homeschooling, private schools, we trust parents. Public schools, we trust parents. 50% of the Senate Democrats, a quarter of the House Democrats voted for that. A lot of children that are in some of the worst public schools today are in the poorest zip codes. That's not right. And a lot of Democrats understand that the teacher unions are standing in the way of those kids getting a great education. They will work with us on school choice. Secondly, the next president has to stand with Israel, has to stop Iran from becoming a nuclear power, has to declare war on radical Islamic terrorism by name. There are Democrats that want to stand with Israel. There are Democrats that are national security Democrats that are Americans first before we are Democrats, before we are Republicans that will work with us. Third, we've got to grow our private sector economy. Look, as an example, this president has turned his back on energy, has turned his back on the Keystone Pipeline. There are private sector unions that want those good-paying manufacturing and energy-related jobs in our country. There are Democrats that will work with me, or the next president, will work with the next president to bring good-paying jobs back to America by reining in the EPA, cutting and lowering taxes. The last time we had successful tax reform, lower and flatter taxes, was actually back in Reagan. In the late 80s, it was bipartisan. The reason I say both parties have to give up their carve-outs and special interests. That means Republicans and Democrats. And by the way, I say we should pay them on a per diem basis. Let me be clear. I mean you pay them every day they stay outside of D.C., not every day they come to D.C.
In the very back left, microphone 3.
Hello, I just want to thank you so much for being the first person to investigate Planned Parenthood in Louisiana and for speaking up for that. Isn't about that, it's about welfare abuse. I have been a recipient of that as a minor, and it's helped me and it's helped feed my family and keep me as a child, but nowadays there's more people on welfare than ever. There's a lot of abuse. And I'm wondering how you would handle that and how you would handle people abusing the system.
That's a great question. And so, look, my wife teases me. She says if she asks me what I want for dinner, everything's 3 parts. I always say I've got 3 things. I don't know why that happened, but there are 3 things I want to say in response to that. One of the most successful reforms in the 90s, bipartisan, was welfare reform. And the idea was welfare should be temporary. They should help people get back on their feet, and they should go to work or get an education. There had to be accountability. This president has systematically worked to undermine those reforms. And I believe by administrative and other actions has weakened some of those reforms. We've got to get back to the work eligibility, the work requirements, the eligibility enforcement, and we've got to stop. And this brings me to my second point. We've got to change our culture. We've got to move away from a culture of dependence where we celebrate dependence instead of celebrating people getting good paying private sector jobs. That is a culture. This is an administration. Look, give Bernie Sanders credit. At least he's honest. At least he admits he's a socialist. Hillary Clinton and President Obama, they're no better. They're just not honest about it. They love government. They celebrate record high food stamps, record low participation rate in the workforce. They're changing the American dream. The most dangerous thing they're trying to do is change the definition of America. We've got to stop that, otherwise we will be Europe. The third thing, I trust states. And so I think there need to be, whether it's Medicaid or other aspects of welfare, give global grants to the state, give them flexibility, give them accountability. I bet you if you secretly survey Democratic governors and said, we'll give you 85 cents on the dollar for some of these programs, but we'll give you freedom from the red tape and bureaucracy, it's not just the Republicans that would take that. I bet you there are Democrats that would anonymously say, absolutely, we can do a better job because the federal government wastes so much money in these one-size-fits-all programs. So there are legal reforms. We can get back to the spirit of the 90s bipartisan welfare reform. But folks, I'm telling you, we have got to fight to get our culture back. The American dream is about growth and opportunity. It's not about redistribution, envy, or government dependence. And that's what they're saying.